Despite my love for urban legends, I never appreciated our own traditions. But seeing my grandmother's eyes, I knew it was important to her too. I decided to respect the rituals, even if they felt archaic. My dreams that night were a whirlpool of dread and foreboding. I was back in the house, every shadow and creak amplified, every corner hiding a sinister secret. The rules from the note danced in my mind, each one a harbinger of doom if broken. I woke up drenched in sweat, the darkness of the room pressing in around me. The next morning, I found my husband staring at the swing in the backyard, a perplexed expression on his face. "Did you hear anything last night?" he asked, his voice tinged with unease. "No, why?" I replied, my curiosity piqued. "I thought I heard something, or someone. It was probably just the wind." He tried to laugh it off, but his eyes betrayed his fear. Days turned into weeks, and the house's oppressive atmosphere grew heavier. I began to follow the rules obsessively, the sense of an unseen presence guiding my every move. The red veil became a constant companion, its weight a reminder of the unknown dangers lurking just out of sight. One evening, as I prepared for bed, I caught a glimpse of a shadow flitting past the window. My heart raced, and I hurriedly closed the curtains. The rules echoed in my mind, a haunting mantra I couldn't escape. The dogs started behaving oddly, barking at empty spaces and refusing to go near the swing. Their agitation only deepened my anxiety. The stray dogs outside, however, seemed to be watching us, their eyes reflecting an unsettling intelligence. Then came the night when the bathroom light flickered on, despite the rule that it would never work. I froze, the air around me growing colder. The sound of soft singing drifted through the house, a woman's voice weaving a chilling melody. My blood ran cold, and I knew I had to leave immediately. I grabbed my husband, and we fled the house, not stopping until the first light of dawn broke the horizon. We returned to find everything in disarray, but no sign of the source of the singing. We knew then that the rules were not mere fabrications or pranks. They were a lifeline, a desperate measure to keep the darkness at bay. The landowner's final warning echoed in my mind: as long as the rules remain unbroken, you will enjoy your life here. From that day on, we lived in a delicate balance, adhering to the rules with an unwavering vigilance. The sense of foreboding never left, a constant reminder that the house harbored secrets far more sinister than we could comprehend. One evening, as the 4th month drew near its end, I found myself sitting alone in the living room, the red veil draped over my head, casting a crimson shadow over everything. My husband was out of town for work, and the dogs were unusually quiet, their large forms curled up in front of the fireplace. The air was thick with tension, the kind that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. I was sipping a cup of chamomile tea, trying to calm my nerves, when I heard a soft knock at the door. My heart skipped a beat. Visitors were rare, especially this late. I placed the cup on the table and walked towards the door, each step echoing loudly in the silent house. When I opened the door, I was greeted by the sight of an elderly woman, her face lined with age and wisdom. She wore a simple dress and a red scarf around her neck. Her eyes held a knowing look that sent a shiver down my spine. "Good evening, dear," she said, her voice soft but firm. "May I come in?" Hesitant but intrigued, I stepped aside to let her in. She walked with a grace that belied her age, moving towards the living room with familiarity. I followed her, my mind racing with questions. "Who are you?" I asked, unable to contain my curiosity any longer. She settled into a chair, looking around the room as if recalling distant memories. "I am Anara, the previous occupant of this house," she said, her eyes locking onto mine. "I've come to warn you." "Warn me about what?" I asked, my anxiety spiking. She sighed, her expression growing somber. "This house has a history, one filled with pain and loss. The rules you've been following are not mere superstitions, they are necessary protections against the malevolent spirits that haunt this place. I swallowed hard, the weight of her words sinking in. What happened here? Anara leaned forward, her eyes boring into mine. Many years ago, this house was home to a young bride, much like yourself. She and her husband were deeply in love, but tragedy struck when she died under mysterious circumstances. Her spirit, filled with rage and sorrow, became one of the many that now inhabit this house. Her words sent chills down my spine. Is that why we have to follow these rules? Yes, she replied. The spirits are drawn to those who break the rules, seeing it as a sign of disrespect. The red veil you wear is particularly important. It symbolizes protection and respect, keeping the spirits at bay. I nodded, my mind racing. Is there any way to get rid of them? To cleanse the house? Anara shook her head. The spirits are bound to this place by powerful forces. The best you can do is respect the rules and coexist with them. Any attempt to drive them out will only anger them further. As she spoke, I noticed a shadow moving behind her, but when I blinked, it was gone. The dog stirred, sensing the same presence. Anara stood up, sensing it too. It's time for me to leave, she said, her voice tinged with urgency. Remember, respect the rules and you will be safe. With that, she walked towards the door. I followed her, my mind still reeling from the information she had given me. As she stepped outside, she turned to face me one last time. Be vigilant, dear. This house has many secrets, and not all of them are meant to be uncovered. With those final words, she disappeared into the night, leaving me standing at the doorway, the weight of her warning heavy on my shoulders. The next few days passed in a haze of unease. My husband returned from his trip, but I didn't tell him about Anara's visit. I didn't want to burden him with more fears, especially when he was already on edge. One night, as I was preparing for bed, I noticed a faint light coming from the attic. My heart pounded in my chest. The attic was one place we had never explored, following the rule to leave it untouched. But now, curiosity gnawed at me, and I found myself drawn towards it. I climbed the creaky stairs, the red veil trailing behind me. As I reached the top, I saw that the light was coming from a small, old-fashioned lantern placed in the middle of the room. The air was thick with dust, and the scent of decay lingered. In the corner of the attic, I noticed an old trunk, partially covered by a tattered blanket. I approached it cautiously, my hands trembling as I lifted the lid. Inside, I found a collection of old photographs, letters, and a red journal. I opened the journal, its pages yellowed with age. The handwriting was delicate, almost ethereal. It belonged to the young bride Anara had mentioned. March 15, 1922. Today, I married the love of my life. This house will be our sanctuary, our safe haven. As I read through the journal, the entries grew darker, filled with accounts of strange occurrences and eerie sightings. The bride wrote about feeling watched, hearing whispers in the night, and seeing shadows move on their own. June 7, 1922. I found a red veil in my wardrobe today. I don't remember owning it. Mother says it's a sign, a protection against evil. I must wear it at all times. The last entry sent a shiver down my spine. August 13, 1922. I fear for my life. The spirits are angry, restless. I don't know how much longer I can endure this. If you're reading this, please, follow the rules. They are your only hope. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind blew through the attic, extinguishing the lantern. I felt a presence behind me, and before I could turn around, a whisper filled my ears. Leave this place. I stumbled down the stairs, the journal clutched tightly in my hands. I ran into the bedroom, slamming the door shut behind me. My husband woke up, alarmed by my frantic state. What happened? He asked, his voice filled with concern. I handed him the journal, my hands shaking. We need to read this. We spent the next few hours poring over the entries, the gravity of the situation sinking in. The house was not just haunted, it was a trap, designed to lure and torment its inhabitants. We have to leave, I said, my voice trembling. We can't stay here any longer. My husband nodded, his expression grim. We'll pack our things and leave tomorrow. First thing in the morning. That night, sleep eluded us both. The shadows seemed to move with a life of their own, and the air was filled with an oppressive heaviness. We huddled together, the red veil draped over us like a shield. Morning brought a false sense of relief. We packed our belongings quickly, eager to escape the house's malevolent grip. As we loaded the car, the stray dogs watched us, their eyes following our every move. Just as we were about to leave, I felt a strange compulsion to visit the backyard one last time. I walked towards the swing, its chains creaking softly in the breeze. The swing moved on its own, as if inviting me to sit. Ignoring the warning in the note, I reached out to touch the swing. The moment my fingers brushed the cold metal, a surge of memories flooded my mind. I saw visions of the young bride, her life, and her tragic end. Her face, once filled with hope and love, twisted in pain and despair. I pulled away, gasping for breath. The swing slowed to a stop, and the air grew still. I knew then that the spirits were bound to this place by their suffering, unable to move on. As we drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The road seemed longer than usual, each mile stretching into eternity. Finally, we reached the edge of the town, the house fading into the distance. Relief washed over us as we drove towards the city, leaving the horrors of the past behind. We found a new place to live, a modern apartment far from the haunted house. Life gradually returned to normal, but the memories of that place lingered, a haunting reminder of the darkness we had escaped. Years later, as I sat by the window watching the sunset, I reflected on our journey. The red veil, once a symbol of fear and oppression, had become a symbol of resilience and survival. The house had tested us, but it had also taught us the value of respect and caution in the face of the unknown. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of closure. The spirits of the past would always be a part of me, but I had found peace in knowing that we had done everything we could to honor and protect them. The red veil, now carefully folded and stored away, was a testament to our endurance and the lessons we had learned. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I smiled, knowing that we had overcome the darkness and emerged stronger. The house and its spirits were a chapter in our lives, one that we had closed with respect and understanding. And in the end, that was enough.